You're listening to SmartBug on Tap, a weekly podcast offering short, actionable marketing advice that you can use in your business right away. I'm Hannah, VP of Marketing at SmartBug Media and host of this podcast. On today's episode, I want to share with you a bit about what's on my marketing dashboard. What metrics do we care about, and what data am I looking at with my senior leadership on a weekly basis, and then what am I looking at with my team of marketers every day? Data is a lifeblood of our organization, and putting that data into actionable, goal-oriented reporting is critical for us as marketing leaders as we guide the ship. And it helps us on making decisions on the next investment or game plan. Let's dive in. Okay, one of my most absolute favorite questions to ask in a small group discussion, maybe in your networking, if you're trying to find some small talk at a next marketing conference, this is always a good one to start with, but it is, hey marketers, what's on your dashboard? Or better yet, what's your absolute most favorite report that you have for your marketing dashboard? I'd be curious to hear what you're looking at on a daily basis. So you can tweet me about it later if you want to talk about it. But I want to share with you a little bit about how I'd answer that question. You know, as I start to unpack it and hear from other marketers, I'm usually wondering things like, do you have goal lines on your reports? Or are you looking at some sort of comparison month over month or possibly year over year? How are you kind of at a quick visual glance getting this kind of easily comparable data so that you have some history and some context on where you're going to go? I use both. We use goal lines and we also use the month over month or kind of the different time frame or the scope of time comparisons. Perhaps this is the most important factor when you're building out any sort of solid report. You must have a baseline to compare by. So I repeat, never, ever, ever just put a report together that has a single numerical value with absolutely no context. It does no one any good. Doesn't do you any good on trying to figure out how to, best direct or give any sort of direction on how the marketing program is doing. And it's not really giving any sort of insight into how are things going? One example of like a plain old numerical value might be, well, this month we got 5,000 blog viewers. You might just kind of think, well, okay, congrats. Is that good? Is that bad? Did you guys tank from the month before or are you skyrocketing? And then there's always going to be what questions do you have after you see that one first report, right? So if someone were to ask me the same question, if I met them, out at a social setting all about inbound marketing, and they were going to ask me, what's your favorite report on your marketing dashboard? I think I'd have to answer that with a monthly lead velocity report. Okay, so the way it's set up, it's on the top of our dashboard, and the monthly lead velocity is a real-time look at how many leads are being generated each month. And so it's a month-over-month reporting, and you're naturally getting that, how are things going against the prior period? How are things going in this current period, in the current month? And then I also have it layered in so you can see exactly what was happening last year at the exact same time. So the year over year comparison is super helpful from a standpoint of maybe something's happening that's seasonality. We typically see fewer leads around the holidays, or, when you're kind of selling in more of kind of a business to business model, that's when things might slow down because people are taking vacations. Maybe the summertime might be more of a seasonality factor for you. So having that quick year over year view is super helpful. One other thing that is really important when you're doing the monthly lead velocity is don't give yourself over credit for leads that you put into your CRM if you're doing that, which is not the inbound way. But as marketers and sales reps, we do have a process for identifying new contacts that we're going to include in our marketing or in our sales outreach. Those should not be included. So I have it set up as a filter of inbound leads. So they have filled out the forms, they've come through on conversion points, and we're seeing from that kind of organic growth standpoint, how are we doing month over month? I would also argue that your kind of marketing lead generation should also count for any sort of events that you participate in, or partner marketing or co-marketing activities. So on occasion, we're kind of getting those in more bulk. So if we attend an event with one of our partners and they're running registration, but we have been included in part of that kind of privacy policy for receiving the leads along with our co-marketing partners, we'll get all those leads, right after the campaign is closed. And now it's kind of looking like, all right, well, we saw a big spike of leads generated in a single month. So you're always going to have a story behind what's happening with your leads being generated. But if you want to, you can be very pure about this monthly lead velocity report and say, I only want to see the leads that convert on website landing pages or forms on our website. It's a really good measure. It's a leading factor, a leading indicator for your business on how things are going. It's definitely top of funnel metrics. It's not going to be, well, how many deals are created or how many initial calls were taken or what's the sales activity. Those are further down in terms of the buying cycle, but it's a really good leading indicator, and it's almost kind of board ready data that can help you. That's a little bit more tangible than how's website traffic going. So that's why monthly lead velocity is one of my favorite reports that I have on our dashboard. Now, kind of a next natural step that happens whenever you bring up one report is, all right, well, what's next? You're always going to get more questions, right? So typically, one of the next level of questions that I anticipate, I'm the kind of person that when I'm building out my kind of end of month or end of quarter results and I put one report together, I try to think to myself, what's the next question somebody's going to ask? And sometimes it might be, well, were any of those really good? Were they quality leads, or did we get a bunch of junk that came in this month? Did they meet our threshold or our criteria for being an MQL? And now enter funnel reporting. So right next to our report on our dashboard for monthly lead velocity, I have a for that current kind of time frame. So if it's in quarter or month, how many of those leads converted to MQLs? And that percentage is a known goal of what our kind of conversion percentages are. And I repeat it every time we're ever doing any sort of presentations or reporting to say, here's how many leads converted to MQLs. Let's say it's 25% or 40% for the given quarter or month. And I remind the audience that I'm presenting to, our goal, our target is this. And I think that's always kind of a good way to get into a habit so that they have context. Because sometimes when you build reports, you can't necessarily, at least for funnel conversion reporting, you might not be able to put the goal line in there, but it's good when you're delivering that information to remind people this is what we're aiming for. One other really helpful report that I have on our daily dashboard that I'm looking at with my marketing team is how many of those leads are we generating on a weekly basis. So it's not the monthly lead velocity, which we do have goals on how many leads we're trying to increase by every month, but it's our weekly lead generation. And that has a goal line. So it's a kind of a threshold. Think of it as kind of a watermark or a water line. And we're trying to get that over the hump. And we can check in on Mondays. Sometimes we check in on Fridays and say, hey, how'd we do for leads generated this week? It is a report that I like to have my team looking at every time they log into HubSpot. It's right up at the front. And we're always constantly thinking about opportunities that we might need to, maybe we need to scramble. Do we need to do a blitz for the week and try to drive some leads to a specific campaign? And we've often run some campaigns because we might see early on in the week, hey, we're not going to hit our numbers for the month. Can we do something now that's going to help impact that? And some ideas we've had are, running paid social campaigns or putting an event up on LinkedIn because it's easier for people to register there than it would be for people to register on our dedicated landing pages. And some of these ways, it really creates this actionable step in your daily activities with all of your team that's executing on your marketing campaigns to see the right data. And so I've enabled them with that dashboard, right? My revenue leadership team, we're always talking about the kind of, you need to click in. So creating our dashboard, we start with all this high level data. And then if anything seems a little off or kind of, not exactly going to the plan that we had put out, then what we'll put in the reporting is a way to click in. And clicking in on the monthly lead velocity, for example, might say, all right, well, we're generating way more leads this month than we thought we were. Where'd they come from? What were they converting on? And when you click in, then you can say, oh, most of those were from a webinar that we ran. Got it. That's pretty interesting. You just want to get to the story quick, but you want to also enable for that kind of additional layer of answering questions if people are there. I'm really proud of where we've been able to get to from a reporting standpoint, as an industry as a whole, because I can't tell you how long I've been doing funneled reporting in Google spreadsheets or even in Excel and having to kind of pull all the data and all the numbers in from a variety of sources. And so to have a real-time dashboard that we're logging into and we see every morning is pretty big impact and pretty good pat on the back for being able to build it for that far. And that's my monthly dashboard, which honestly just means it's kind of a month over month, a big picture view. I call this an L1 or a level 1 report, and it helps me just stay just enough in tune with how things are going while we're kind of in the thick of it and we're running our specific campaigns. One other perspective that I'll just offer real quick is I subscribe our CEO and our chief revenue officer and our head of sales into a end of week recap on what happened this week compared to last week. So that is hitting our inboxes at the end of the day every Friday. And we receive just a quick little view of last week, this week, and we're answering a few kind of critical questions. How did website do this week compared to last week? What were the top 3 sources? What was the number of kind of funnel leads that came in this week versus last week? What were the top 3 conversion points? How many MQLs were created last week versus this week? What were the big conversion points? So you can see it's a funnel report, but now we're just doing this side by side week so that we have a good pulse on how'd this week go? Did we do better than last week? Are we incrementally getting better, or did something happen this week that might have slowed us down a little bit? And we go all the way through from top of funnel website traffic into where deals getting sourced from and how many new deals are created over the course of the week. This data has been really helpful as we kind of study the market and we understand different directions we need to go in as an organization. Also, if there's interesting times happening in the market, a downturn in kind of the economics or a recession that we might be facing, if there's different industry issues that might be happening. One other type of really useful dashboard, and this is the last, I promise, I could talk about reporting all day long, but it would be more of a market analysis. So what me and our chief revenue officer, we thought through is, hey, you know what? Let's see how many MQLs are being created each week or each month. You can kind of toggle them both back and forth by vertical. So now I've got a bunch of charts on our dashboard and we can say how many manufacturing leads or MQLs are coming in versus how many higher education or how many SaaS and software leads are coming in, how many healthcare or even like a drill down into healthcare, hospitals versus senior living or elderly care. And that has been very insightful. So as we're trying to make some decisions on is a upcoming recession impacting one vertical or the other, are we seeing any of that data on our end that would be a leading indicator for where we need to go directionally? Okay, that's all I got in terms of reporting. So there you have it. Marketing dashboards with some of the most critical marketing data to run your business. And all right, I went a little over than 10 minutes. I apologize. Like I said, I love data. What other ideas or questions you have in terms of optimizing your inbound marketing engine? I'd love to hear about them. Email me marketing@smartbugmedia.com or tweet us at smartbugmedia. Thanks.